Now get the thoughts of business and commercial law professor Antonio Ligon, who joins us now in the studio. Professor, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Rico, for having me.
Revising the IRR, the implementing rules and regulations. Isn't the president tampering here with the law when it was already crafted by both houses of Congress and signed into law by himself?
Well, even if it is already signed, you can make some amendment, but it has to go through the proper legislative process. And many are saying it did not go through the proper legislative process. Now, one common observation we have is they're saying it's the aim is to avoid the political influence.
Right.
But for
Free
me,
from politics.
yeah, but it's an oxymoron. Why? It's an oxymoron term because actually when you have the president, the full power and everything to appoint, then there is politics. When you talk of government and human relation and people in it, there is always politics. So in this matter, politics is not an exception. So there is nothing wrong with the president being the appointing power, but at least the parameters should be set. Here, what happens was you have eased the qualification and the of the board of directors. You know, we have the JBC in the judiciary. If they appoint, at least the JBC screen and filter the appointees with the following qualification. Then the president can select. Here, the president can reject and appoint, and they cannot do anything because the qualification has been lessened.
So, with the qualifications being lessened and with the revisions of the IRR, is this also an indication, Professor Ligon, that the President could just find the right people to be the President and CEO and members of the board?
You are right there because he can, as the word itself use the term, for in the interest of exigency. So that's the justification made. He can accept and reject. And finally, he can still require the advisory council to come up with new names if he does not find the existing list of names sufficient.
What do you think of the appointment of Rafael Joel Consing Jr.?
Well, I don't know him personally, but since they have made the revision, and if you strictly apply the original initial provision, there might be some question. But of course, right now, they have revised it. And with the implementation of the IRR, he can easily qualify.
And taking a look at his background, he has so-called additional training from Stanford University Graduate School of Business Strategic Financial Leadership Program 2016 and worked extensively, of course, with HSBC and with the Razon conglomerate.
Well, actually, as we have discussed before the show, anyone can do that. And I'm not, of course, making a judgment of his competence, but objectively, when you apply the original or initial IRR, there will be difficulty in getting that position because you're the vice president of the board of directors. Because the chairman, the ex-officio chairman, is the secretary of finance. So you hold a very big position. But of course, the 9 members, the majority of the votes will come from the 2 regular directors and 3 independent directors. And what is troubling, Rico, is you lessen now the qualification of these directors. And
do you think, Professor, by also having a difficult time filling up this position for President and CEO, there would also be difficulty in filling up these positions for directors and independent directors and for the rest of the board?
Yeah, now it will depend now on who you will invite. If somebody would just like to get a job and be accepted, then they can easily qualify. But if you come with a scope of work, well, you look at our present SEC corporate governance. The requirement of an independent director is there are so many requirements. The detailed requirement is spelled out. You don't just put a general requirement that you have a good moral character and that's it. But you must comply with so many qualifications.
And when this law was passed and signed by the President, he assured, quote, the public that pension funds in this investment fund will not be used for the Maharlika Investment Corporation. Do you trust that this will still be so now, now that he has revised the IRR?
Well, again, since the management of the fund will go to the board of directors, whose competence qualification will be up to the discretion of the president, then that's an issue we have to really be vigilant, and we should watch out about it. I do not want to, of course, second guess what's going to happen. As Filipino citizens, we all want all the projects of the present government to succeed. And we have to just keep a watchful eye on these things.
With an eagle eye. And you talked about a very important word there, competence.
Yeah.
Professor Ligon, Mr. Consing will be managing risk, financial performance, human resources, accounting, and legal affairs of the MIC. How big a job is this?
That's really a tremendous job. In fact, what is also challenging now is they remove some of the provision on the risk management and audit. You know, you have a business management background. In order to really fulfill a job which requires that has something to do with economics, you must spell out all the parameters in the IRR. I would disagree with the statement that you can just put a general provision on the implementing rules and guidelines. That's the key, that's the spirit where the law will have to envision or execute the Republic Act or the general provisions of the law. The IRR is very important in any law. In fact, without IRR, the law is useless.
So we'll have to wait and see how this will all play out. Thank you so much for joining us in the final word, Professor Antonio Ligon, Business and Commercial Law Professor from De La Salle University.
Animo, Ligon.
Animo.
Thank you.